And I want to take a moment here and just appreciate Stella, the entire deck, and the trio for inviting me, giving me a chance to come back and share a little bit about virtual meetings. And, you know, again, I kind of want to take a step back because I see a lot of familiar faces. It's it's heartwarming to see everybody that I haven't talked to and seen in a while, but I also see some new faces. And so they may be wondering, like, you know, who is this guy? You know, why did they pick him, and why are we doing virtual meetings with this individual? So for those of you that haven't either met me or haven't talked to me before, my name is Iqbal Atcha. I'm a past district director for District 30 Toastmasters, and I've been you know, very fortunate to have spent a lot of time working with several Fortune 500 companies in a director level position where this is my life. Utilizing different platforms to conduct and supervise teams of about 5 to 12 across the country to be able to engage with students and professionals alike, utilizing virtual platforms like Zoom or some of the other ones we'll talk about. In the world that we live in today, and I was telling this earlier to both Stella and Noel, like nobody had a clue that COVID-19 was coming, and nobody knew what that even was, let alone the type of impact that it was going to have on our literal everyday lives. We're very fortunate that we have these types of tools, but I think, you know, when I speak to a lot of individuals, you know, we know how these tools, you know, we know what these tools are, and we see a lot of both companies, organizations, even individuals utilizing them for a variety of purposes. But, you know, sometimes when we think about how are we going to, you know, master utilizing virtual technology for a Toastmasters meeting, you know, there's a lot of ambiguity, a lot of questions, and most importantly, like, I don't even know where to get started. So I want to set up a couple of disclaimers here because I don't want anyone to think that I'm going to go through and do a PowerPoint presentation, because my hope is that your members are going to do the PowerPoint presentations utilizing the technology. My goal here is really just to kind of set up a preface of, you know, the types of technology that exist, the 2 or 3 that I think are most critical, and then most importantly, either as a deck leader or as a Toastmaster of a meeting, or simply just a leader in any form of capacity, how to set up for these types of events, whether they're one-on-one coachings, whether they're group meetings or club meetings, or larger venues that you'll need to do online. So let me make sure I take a step back and help understand. And Stella, totally correct me if I'm wrong. If there's more that you feel that you need from me, Stella and Noel, and I guess I don't know if Valinda's on, I did not see her, but as the trio, you know, my invite to you is please do feel free to interrupt me with a comment, question, anything else I can do. For the rest of the group, I absolutely want to hear from you. And with that, I'm going to encourage you to use the chat function. I know that Ranjit was already, you know, typing some things. Valinda, thank you for confirming your presence. Thank you. So feel free to shoot, you know, a quick question or whatever you'd like on the chat. And then Stella, Noel, Valinda, I'm going to rely on you guys to look at that chat and then just interrupt me if I didn't catch it myself. Sound good?
Perfect. Excellent. We
Awesome.
love it.
Very cool.
Okay.
So let's start off with the different types of platforms, because I think that everyone knows there's at least like 8 or 10 big platforms that a lot of people are looking at or maybe using today when it comes to virtual platforms or webinar technology. The one that we're using today is Zoom, Z-O-O-M. I've used others like Cisco WebEx. I've used Join Me. There's Apache Join Meeting. And there's also Skype, right? So there's a lot of these different functions. A lot of them have some advantages over the other. Personally speaking, I'm a big fan of Zoom. I feel that there's a lot of free software, and there's a lot of free upgrades that the Zoom platform offers. So for example, in this case, you can have up to 100 participants on this meeting alone. You can have a 40-minute meeting at absolutely no charge. You can even record this meeting. So I've already set up my account. And if you want to increase either the number of participants or you want to, you know, have some extra technology, you can pay like an extra, I don't know, $30-some a month, or different pricings and plans. But personally speaking, like I would say for a Toastmasters meeting, having Zoom is probably one of the best ones. Now, when it comes to area level, you know, contests, I would say that Zoom would still work properly. You know, maybe division contests, there may be some question as to how, you know, what the bandwidth is for that. So I'm not going to go into the details of each of these platforms. My actual hope is that one of your Toastmasters members will actually make that one of their presentations and show the pros and cons of all of them. But I'm a big fan of Zoom. My second go-to is Cisco WebEx. They both have very similar platforms, very easy to use. I enjoy the fact that on Zoom, I get to see everyone's pictures, especially when the video's on, and there's a chat function. So those are my big ones that I enjoy. So let's talk a little bit about, what it is that this particular webinar is going to focus on outside of the technology. It is really how to prepare pre-meeting, the monitoring that you or your team need to do during the meeting, and then post-meeting follow-up. So we're breaking up in a pre, mid, and post. And there's just a few things that I think are really important for people to do. And most of the work and the investment and effort that really any Toastmaster, MC, leader really has to invest in is ensuring that both the environment is set up properly, so that way your audience will be able to hear, see, and perceive your message clearly with very little confusion or ambiguity. And then the second thing is to ensure that whoever's going to be part of that meeting is also both familiar with the technology and is also able to transition between speakers. So I will give you a great example. Many years ago when I was the district director, as Stella pointed out, we started utilizing virtual technology to conduct our monthly deck meetings. A lot of this was partly because of the fact that there were issues when it came to logistics. You have area directors from all across the city, but our city is pretty big. I mean, it's like about 100 miles from end to end. And to be brutally honest, the winters were never a favorable time to have area directors, division directors, or any district executive council leader come to a meeting face to face. So to alleviate some of the pain and some of the challenges with that, we instituted virtual deck meetings for about 4 or 5 months, depending. And it was actually very successful. So one of the things I would say is from a pre-meeting perspective, as a Toastmaster, District Executive Council leader, even a one-on-one coaching or consultation that you may choose to do, you really want to ensure that your lighting and your environment is pristine. Prior to coming on to this webinar, I was very diligent in ensuring that my background was set up the way that I like it. Anytime I conduct interviews or coaching sessions with my clients, or whether I'm speaking with a CEO or anyone else, I want to make sure that I have as minimal distraction as I can, but with enough color to be able to keep someone's attention on the screen. I'm also very diligent about the lighting. So right now I have on an overhead lighting with about 5 light bulbs pretty much facing directly to me. It's a little bit harsh right now, and what I would do if I have the resources, I plan on actually developing a little bit of a screen to kind of filter out the harsh light. But I would tell you the opposite. When I turned off this light and I turned on the ambient lighting in the back, radically different. You see a lot more of the background and a lot more shadow on the face. So it's really critical that as you conduct, as again, a Toastmaster, a deck leader, whatever it is, whenever you're speaking on stage, and this is your stage for now, you need to ensure that there's enough lighting on you and that you have enough of a minimum distraction in the backs to be able to continuously have your audience engaged. I think the third thing that I would ensure is that whenever you're speaking, you're always speaking to the camera. Right? It's easy to get distracted if you have if you have the chat function open on the right and you can see other people's videos, and perhaps you have like a Word document up to help you follow through. I think the best way for anyone to be able to navigate through a 30, 45, 60-minute meeting is to ensure that if you truly need to follow a script, have the script printed out and place it near you, so that way you have access to it. The other thing that you may notice is that, I'm kind of looking at you head on, right? Most people that have a laptop have it, and I can see it right now. And I'm taking a look at some of the people that are on a laptop, like you can see that they're looking down towards their keyboard because their laptop is down here. Well, I actually want to always encourage everyone to get like a cardboard box, a shoe box, something that if they happen to have a low desk where they have their laptop on, to prop your laptop up, or to have a camera with a tripod that you're facing head on. right? A lot of experts in the speaking space will talk about two things, right? If you're a speaker, you always want to be able to look up, because the image of the audience is that they have a little bit more of a, comfort level looking down rather than feeling diminished when the speakers speak downwards. And I see that a lot in the corporate setting too. I've had a lot of, business meetings where you'll see that a lot of CEOs may consistently do that, but they've been properly consulted to be able to switch that. The other reason why this is really important is because it's a really good way to minimize stress on your neck, your back, and your shoulders. So having a cardboard box that you can put your laptop on, if that's what you're using for your camera, is really critical, because you want to be able to look at your camera eye, straight on. The other thing that I would tell you, and Stella, you will remember this because I would always speak to you and my PQD regularly about this, is practice your smile, right? Like, your smile is just critical. And if, when you're on stage, you've been taught, when we're talking in a live situation, right? You've been taught that, like, hey, you need to have eye contact and you need to be, dynamic, and don't have T-Rex arms, use the entire space properly. The problem is that on virtual technology, a lot of that is robbed simply because of the fact that you're sitting in a confined space and that you have one camera that you're looking at. And so it's really critical for you to exaggerate your movements, slow down your speech, and exaggerate, the words and the emphasis that you might have on body language as well. And that applies to everyone. So as a Toastmaster, a leader, if you're conducting or facilitating a meeting, you need to bring your A game all the time. So these are some of the things that I think about when I think of pre-meeting planning, how to prepare. I think the hardest part that I found, especially when we were conducting deck meetings, was the transition between speakers. So we would say, okay, I'm going to start the meeting, or my sergeant at arms would start the meeting, and then he would, like, turn it over to me. I would have about 2 to 5 minutes to be able to address the deck, talk to them a little bit, and try to motivate them for the next hour. And then I would turn it back to somebody else. And so sometimes there is a need to practice those transitions. And typically, if you're a multitasker and if you're really good at it, you can chat with somebody while you're talking to them privately and just say, hey, Sergeant at Arms, I need 30 seconds and then it'll be your turn, right? And that's how I kind of do it. I'm also highly caffeinated most of the time. And so that's, an easy job for me. But I would tell you that, especially in the beginning, if you are just starting out, don't try to do it all. Literally have a team of people that you can rely on and says, okay. So for example, at the beginning of this, I've asked the district trio that, hey, keep a lookout on the chat room, right? So if somebody is chatting something, it's your job to alert me that somebody has asked a question, and I'm appointing you and delegating that responsibility to you. Thank you, Noel. I see that you just approved that comment as well. Outstanding. So, like I said, highly caffeinated all the time. But that's the one thing that I learned, is that there were certain buzzwords or triggers or ways that I could approach and notify the next speaker that, hey, before we start, I'm giving you a 30-second warm-up, that you want to be able to get ready to prime your speech, whether it's giving a report as a district executive leader, or it's, to ask, questions or to present something. So I would really encourage you to utilize your team first while you yourself become familiar with the functionalities as well. Let me take a stop here. I know that I'm very excited to be on here, but I'm also very excited to talk. Any questions that you might have about pre-meeting planning? Lighting, audio, I mean, some of the tools and technology components I will not touch, simply because I'm hoping that you guys will find your familiar, or your go-to platform. But let me stop here for a second before we go on with monitoring.
The one thing I learned is from this experience from just the last week is that it's good to have a co-host. So when there's a host, have a co-host. So Noel and I are hosting, and we are catching anybody that's waiting to come in or anything that has to be done. And having that extra person there really means a lot, a lot.
Yep, I would agree. Let's see. Patty asked a good question. Are you saying you should have a monitor to key up the next speaker? I really do. I think it's critical because, again, virtual meetings are going to be very new for a lot of people, particularly Toastmasters, right? It's been probably 5 years since they launched or piloted one of the first virtual clubs. And it never really took off until just about now. Like only in the last few months are we seeing Toastmasters utilize this technology and making it a mainstay. So I would say that there is going to be some discomfort in the beginning. To minimize some of this discomfort, yes. If you can have your sergeant at arms particularly be the individual responsible for priming and positioning your next speaker to go for a Toastmasters meeting, I'd really do that. And again, have your script written out and printed out in front of you so you can always refer to that while you're doing that. Now, another individual asked a really good question. Colleen, for those wearing glasses, how to avoid blue eyes? I can't necessarily, yeah, so I would say this, like, I think it's really critical that, you know, for me, I find that these glasses do create a lot of glare from the harsh lighting that I have on me right now. That may or may not be true for everyone that's looking at me. Some of you are saying yes, some of you are saying no. I did a test on my side and I was like, wow, this is really bright. As for the blue eyes, you know what? The only two things that I can say are this. There are some platforms that offer a filter that you can use, and I don't know, and it's an actual Chrome extension that you can download for that for videos. I think Noel might be able to offer a name or two later on if you would like. But you know, the other option is, you know, either you can lower your glasses down just a little bit if you truly need your glasses. Again, I'm a print out kind of guy. If I need to rely on something, I'm just going to go straight for my print. But when I'm looking at the camera, I'm doing my very best to be able to kind of keep my head down just a little bit and keeping my eyes at the top part so I can look straight at the camera. Len, thank you for the confirmation. Good to know that there is no glare in your eyes.
I also want to make a comment there, Iqbal, because of lighting, and I'm a photographer. If you just take the camera a little bit higher than yourself and actually tilt down, the lighting will not affect your glasses. So if I was photographing somebody, I always go a little bit higher and then tilt down because there's no glare then.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, and it's definitely coming from a professional, ladies and gentlemen. This is her job. Like she is a professional photographer. So good tip on that. Love it. Any other comments? Anything else that's coming up on the chat?
Sure, we do have a comment from Thomas Gore. He's asking, can the host control muting of the rest of the meeting participants?
Okay. Stella, do you have ability to do that as the host?
Yes, and actually it's both Noel and I who are co-hosting this, and therefore we can actually mute people if we need to. If we hear any outside sounds that are not good and not contributing a lot, we will definitely mute them. Right, Noel?
Yes. As the host, if you click on participant, you can see it says mute all, unmute all, and then the more button. And this is something that we discovered from an area contest, that the chime kept on going off when somebody was coming in, which was very distracting. So there is a button that actually unchecks play, enter, and exit chime. And then you can also put the participants in a waiting room. And then you can also allow participants if they can unmute themselves. So right now, everybody has the ability to unmute themselves. If you just want to speak up, you know, temporarily to talk to Iqbal or anybody, you can press the space bar and hold it, and then let go of it to mute yourself again.
You're back on. Oh, Patty.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Patty.
Tell us where you're at, Patty.
I am in the Villages in Florida.
Is it warm out there?
And she's checking out the feature of pressing the space bar and then letting.
The weather is beautiful. It's been in the upper 80s the whole time I've been here, and the evenings are nice and cool, great for walking, and everybody's being really careful about being sanitized and washing hands and all of that good stuff. The community here is all in the 70 age range, so I am in the heart of sanitization here.
Outstanding. A couple of things, and so I mean, this conversation is already sort of bleeding and melding into the how to monitor mid-meeting, right? We're talking about having a sergeant at arms prime the next speaker. We're talking about utilizing somebody on your team to monitor the chat function, so that way, if there's comments or things that you may need in order to gather feedback from the group, you're able to do that. I did not talk about audio per se, and I think I do need to really bring that up on this conversation, right? So I remember when we were doing deck meetings the first few times, and my deck leader saw this headphone on me, and I'm not exactly blessed on the top of mind here, right? So you have like this oval shaped head with like this lovely headset. It is quite comical in the beginning, and again, this was 2 years ago, so people have gotten used to this look. But I think it's really critical because what I see a lot of speakers and a lot of people do, especially when they're leading a webinar, is that they're relying on their computer speakers and their computer microphone as if it is going to be good enough to carry out a webinar. I'm just going to tell you from my personal experience, I have had so many opportunities to recorrect and redirect the meetings because of that false understanding. I would tell you that you could go out and buy like a Yeti microphone, and you can actually like buy a speaker set. I think that's overkill, especially for what we do. Honestly, like a pair of really decent headset from a big box store, or in Noel's case, as he has his cordless iPods, AirPods, anything of that nature, I think is really good. Like from the microphone perspective, I'm sure, I tested the audio before I joined. I'm pretty sure, I haven't heard any negative feedback about the quality, right now. But I will tell you that encourage your members and encourage everyone to utilize this. It makes a significant difference in the quality of the audio, and especially as we start to really see the contests become prevalent virtually, you're going to need to make sure that every word gets heard and everything gets emphasized. I see a few questions that have popped up in the chat. Noel, why don't you go ahead and share with me what those questions are?
Sure. Julia Calderon asked the question is, how do you set up a co-host?
So Stella and Noel, I will turn that one over to you because you guys are doing that today.
So it's kind of an easy question to answer because this Zoom account actually is under my name, and therefore I will always be the host. But then when I give somebody else an opportunity to be on it, and I give them the login information, they can be a co-host because they are set up that way. So Iqbal, Noel, what do you see from your end? Okay, he's talking without hearing.
And that's the other thing that you got to learn is to make sure that you unmute yourself. Especially, I'm doing my audio through my phone, and hence that's why I'm wearing my AirPods. It's very clear for me. My laptop is not strong enough. Sometimes there's some issue of delay because of the voice over internet protocol, and I prefer that I use this because of the clarity portion. But yeah, definitely. I logged in as Stella, and then I just changed my name on it so wouldn't be confusing the two. And I'm able to watch on the chat and let people in. We had somebody just come in our.
Okay.
And actually, I'm using a Platonics device. You can see it on my ear, and it's really doing a very nice job. And can you guys all hear me pretty clearly?
Perfectly.
Okay, so it's a really nice device, and it's you can barely see it, but it's there, and it's helping me hear everybody very clearly, which I like.
So I see a couple of questions that are in the same vein regarding the headset, what type I'm using. And so let me share with you a few of the ones that I've used in the past, right? I've used a Logitech model that I found at a big box store. It was fine in the beginning. Again, you don't have to spend more than like 20 bucks on any of these headsets, right? But the main factor that I find is comfort and quality, right? So you're going to be having a headset on your head and on your ears for 30, 45, 60 minutes while you're presenting or while you're conducting a meeting. You just want to make sure that it's really comfortable. that's one of the reasons why I got rid of the Logitech that I had purchased, because after a while, like I could just feel it like pinching my ears. And so I switched over to a Sennheiser, Sennheiser. It's an SC70. I actually got this through work. The microphone is very clear. It's very comfortable on my head. And it's actually like a little bit thinner and sleeker than the Logitech. So it makes it very comfortable for me. And so the next question that I got is like, is there a mic jack, or, what do I need a special plug for a laptop? Most of the headsets today automatically come with a USB port, right? And so it's really critical to ensure, what are you using to conduct your webinar or to participate in a webinar? Right? A lot of us are mobile. We're either traveling to work, from work, some other city, or in the last week, plus, the next 2 weeks, we're all pretty much sequestered at home. So some of us will be using our iPhones, some of us will be using Galaxies, and some of us will be using laptops. So depending on what you use, like I have a separate Bluetooth headset or a Bluetooth headphone for my iPhone that I use. I've been doing it for about 2 years. It's a Y98 that I got online for like maybe 10 or 12 bucks. I would tell you this, is that if you're just moving into this space new, like this is brand new for you, I would say don't worry about spending $50, $75, $100 for a really good headset. It's not critical. What's critical is that you find just a $20-ish headset with a good microphone extension and comfortable ears or earpieces, so that you can tolerate conducting or participating in a meeting for about an hour. What else is coming through the chat, guys?
A lot of questions about the, who controls if you're a co-host and things like that. But I have a question for you. So I admired your style in the year that I was your club road director, and I really admired the way you were able to conduct data, and then you were actually looking at us and watching the chat. I mean, and I know that Dustin was your administration manager and did a phenomenal job. What did you do? Did you work with him ahead of time? Were you practicing with him? Did you create a script that you knew when you guys needed each other? How did you do that?
Yeah, so Dustin Goffrin was my sergeant at arms during the year of my being a district director, and I relied on him very heavily throughout that year. So in addition to the standard, here's the monthly meeting minutes of the meeting, here's the agenda, and outside of all of the pre-meeting planning, his main function and his main role throughout, after roll, was to monitor that chat function, and through text or through chat, he would privately message me and says, hey, this question just got asked. And I think that that's one of the things that I would say really from managing and multitasking, like I was very diligent to keep my cell phone like right on my laptop. So my expectation was that none of my deck leaders would be texting me during that meeting. But if somebody did text me, 9 out of 10 times, it was Dustin. And Dustin's responsibility was to ensure that if a question got asked and I didn't catch it on the chat, he would resurface it for me. Or if there was somebody that was perhaps, trying to get someone else's attention, or, like engaging in a different conversation, like he was also monitoring that. So, these types of virtual meetings, it's really, really difficult to be a one-stop, hey, I'm going to manage everything. You really need to have a team of people to do that. And even if it's a club meeting with about 12 or 15 people, it's still a lot to manage. And so having, somebody that's going to be your virtual technology master for a few meetings to help you get down a pattern, it's really critical for that. As for the PowerPoints, right, and we'll talk about that now as well, I would ensure that my sergeant at arms collected all of the PowerPoints about 2 days, or at the very latest 24 hours in advance of the meeting. Like that was a non-negotiable. And so Stella, you remember, I would hound you like 4 days in a row, like, hey, our meeting's on Saturday and your deadline's Wednesday night. And then Thursday, I'd be like, we didn't get
Wednesday.
Yeah, I would ask you for Wednesday.
Deadline was Monday.
Yeah, well, I just knew that I was gonna. You never, you always, you always under promise and over deliver. Like Like, that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
So I would always like give that grace period, right? But it was really critical to get that PowerPoint because my sergeant at arms responsibility was to line everything up because he was going to run the meeting, right? I did not touch the PowerPoints. And usually even the speakers, so whether it was Stella as my club growth director or my program quality director, they weren't typically the ones that would do it, or if they did, they would just go ahead and use the web technology. But I also instructed for my presentations that my sergeant at arms would advance because I needed to stay focused on speaking to the camera and speaking to the audience.
That's a great tip because you become the image and therefore people have to focus on you, and you're controlling all the messages that are important. And that's great to have a buddy that's on with you.
Yep.
It's great.
I think one of the things that you had asked me earlier, Stella, and I'm trying not to deviate away, but you can just let me know. We try to keep our meetings a lot of fun, and we would include like Jeopardy games. We also had like some online quizzes, and you could do some polls and things like that. Like, I'm happy to provide those as a resource, right? But I guess it would really depend on what your audience is looking for. Kahoot, K-A-H-O-O-T, is a website that allows you to create like polls or like, online surveys through text and through chat. There's also Easy Poll, like E as in Edward, Z as in zebra, P-O-L-L everywhere. Those are two sources that I've used whenever I've given presentations and used technology, as from a virtual way to keep your audience engaged. I understand how crazy the times are today, right? Like, you are sitting here now asking to be able to lead your club, your area, your division, just virtually. You can't go anywhere. You're stuck. Patty's stuck at the Villages, 3,000 miles away. She can't talk to, can't be live with her group or with her team or with people that she needs. So it's critical that if you are going to have meetings in this space, that you engage your audience, right? And especially if you have more than 3 people, you need to have some form of amusement and technology. So I didn't create one for today, but I want you to know, like, we've done this in the past. It is fun. I know that PowerPoint and Easy Poll everywhere actually are integrated, so you can literally incorporate that into your PowerPoint presentation if you're ever doing so as for during your business meeting, so to speak. But I wanted to insert that in here and see, that maybe that's part of the mid-meeting monitoring that we were talking about.
I absolutely loved when you did the Jeopardy game because it allowed all the divisions to kind of be answering the questions, and they were challenging each other, and it was fun. It was very engaging, and the questions are really good because a lot of times in presentations you kind of have selective hearing, or you get so absorbed into the information you forget about what you're listening to, and these questions would bring you right back into, oh my God, I have to answer that question. Oh my God, I got to answer that question. And it was really good. And I love the way you did that. It was just, I hope you have some recordings of that because that was amazing.
I don't have the recordings, but I will say this. I remember how the chat function would blow up during that time, man. Everybody was like, no, I answered it first. Like, no, you didn't. I'm the MC here. I know who said something first. But man, like North Division versus Northeast versus West, man, you guys just like brought it. Yeah, Amy, you know what? Amy Clapp, thank you for confirming that you guys had, that you all enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Patty. Go North Stars.
I think the one
Go North Stars.
Go North Stars.
Yeah,
and I do remember the one thing that was enjoyable was, since we had 5 divisions, that you had to narrow it down to the last 2, and you did the Family Feud version, which was hilarious. I do enjoy that. We do have a comment from Ranjit Sauri.
Sure.
Hey Ranjit, it's been a while for Iqbal seeing you. Some online clubs have a chat master role for each meeting. Person's job is to monitor the chat and make sure any questions from there are addressed, and it's brought attention to the Toastmaster of the day. It's kind of interesting you mentioned no competent leader credit for the chat master.
Yet.
Yeah, we got 3 months before the end of the traditional program. Maybe they'll put something. I'm not sure.
Awesome. So we've talked a little bit about, well, we've talked quite a bit about pre-meeting planning. We've talked about monitoring during the meeting. I think that one of the things that I always want to ensure that at the end of a meeting, it's just like a speech, right? Like anytime that you're a Toastmaster of a meeting, like you need to start your meeting high and motivate your entire audience. You need to make sure that during and in between each speaker, you're always coming back on stage and lighting up the stage. The end is no different, right? But on a virtual meeting, it's a lot more difficult because most people are looking at the agenda like, hey, we're done in 5 minutes, or I just drank a lot of water and I got to go use the bathroom. Like, what is your role? How do you end this meeting? So virtually speaking, like I would always ensure that that chat function was fully utilized. And so I always ask for feedback, like, look, this is brand new. This is the first time we're trying this out, or, hey, this is like only the second time, and I've heard some good things. I've heard some areas, of opportunity. Like, what is it that you want to see next time? So that way, when I do this again, it'll be better, right? And it was great to see like that engagement come through. I think one of the things that's critical as a Toastmaster, area director, or a deck leader of any level, that when your meeting ends, you still stay on board and encourage people to ask you questions either privately or in a chat function. So I would find that while I had a vocal group of like 30-ish or 40 or 50 deck leaders, there were some that did not want to necessarily express their ideas or thoughts in a public forum. And so if you take a look at the chat function now, you can privately message an individual as well. Now, you can, that was one of the tools that I used to ensure that I got feedback from just about everybody. Of course, you also let them know like, hey, this is my email or my LinkedIn account, Facebook account, like whatever way that you can make yourself available at any time for your member, that's what's most important. Right. And I think that that's essential for everyone to use during virtual technology. Virtual technology using Zoom, WebEx, it's good for the time being, but the impact that you're going to leave on your audience is going to last beyond that. They still need to reach out to you. And so even if you just have one PowerPoint slide that has your LinkedIn account, your Facebook account, some way to connect with you, I think that's critical because people will use the mode that they're most comfortable with, right? So for most of us, we don't necessarily use Zoom every day. I do for work, but most of us may or may not use this. And so this is a once every 2 weeks or once a month or maybe even a once a quarterly modality that people are getting used to. But they're on Facebook every 10 minutes, or they're posting something on Instagram every half hour, right? That's their mode of comfort. So you need to also make sure that you are available for them to answer their questions. I know that District 30 at one point in time had an account on all social media platforms, and it was very well utilized and it was very prosperous. And I believe that that's going to be reactivated very soon. Or it's already activated and people are utilizing the Facebook group that we set up. So don't be afraid to let people know like, hey, this is how we want to stay engaged. My hope is that Governor Pritzker's 15-day moratorium is going to be limited to 15 days. But the fact of the matter is that this is brand new for everybody, right? The coronavirus is not something that anyone has experienced. We've never had like, a quarantine in place or a shelter in place ever before. This could be 2 weeks. It could be 4 weeks. I don't know. But I do know that in order for us to be able to both stay sane, but also to see business move forward, whether that's an organizational objective or a company or even your own individual, goals and visions, we have to be engaged as often as possible. So let me pause here. Again, highly caffeinated, highly excited. I enjoy speaking with everybody, but any questions at this point? In fact, at this point, let me just kind of open it up to anyone and everyone about anything except Patty, because Patty's going to say something and I know it.
So
I'm just teasing.
So Iqbal, I want to share my screen. Okay, so I'm going to do this by going down on the bottom. If you scroll down on the bottom, like below The Beautiful Tie by Iqbal, you'll notice that it kind of pops up with a lot of options. So if I hit share, you can actually choose what to share. And look at this great title for our upcoming first virtual annual conference for District 30. And look, Roaring Forward. Kind of reminds me of your theme, Iqbal. So I'm kind of excited to show this to you.
I love it. Oh my gosh.
And take a look at what we have going on. We've got the first virtual conference on the first weekend of May. And we're going to have Craig Valentine, Seema Dal, who's an accredited speaker. And we're going to have a DTM recognition, CLL award recognition. You can take a look at it. Everything's going to be on District 30 website, right? And you are always promoting that. So I'm going to stop my share. Isn't that cool?
Thank you. I love it. I love it. I see a couple of things that are coming in. Yes, that was Sean. That was good memory. My motto for the year was roar with pride. So I see that. And Stella, thank you for honoring me with that. I think that's just beautiful. Jamie asked a question: is there screen share capability on a tablet? As long as we're using Zoom or WebEx, then yes. The answer is yes. These are web-based platforms, so regardless of the device, whether you're using your smartphone or your tablet or your laptop, you can download these apps as well on your smartphone or tablet, and they will have that functionality. It will look different than what you see on your desktop or laptop. So it's a little bit of a getting used to, but yes, you can do that. Caesar says, I noticed initials next to my name in the participant list, yet some have a picture. Can you share the quick tip to upload a picture graphic next to my name? Yeah, I believe the short answer to that is you just have to set up an account. So if you already have an account, which is, by the way, for Zoom is free to do, you can upload your picture to that, and voila. Anytime like you accept an invitation like this that comes to the same email address as the account that you set up, your picture will pop up.
And the other thing too is if you go into the box that your name is in, there's the little 3 dots there. And all you have to do is just click on it because it changes the format from your picture to your name. Is that correct, Noel?
I'm taking a look at that right now. And right now when I see my name, it just says more and mute.
So
and
there's 3 dots. There's 3 dots in the upper right-hand corner.
Let me see if I have that.
See a little 3 little, it says unmute and then the 3 dots.
So I don't see the 3 dots for me.
Okay.
Now I could be, again, it might be because I'm a participant, or maybe another participant does see it and it's just my system.
Okay.
Stella, this is Caesar. I do see the 3 dots. And the only options I see is not a host, which is probably what others see. Mute my audio, stop video, rename, pin video, and hide self.
So I think stop video means that it stops you being actually seen, and your name drops in instead of the video of you. So when you click on stop video, it'll be your name. But if you want to have
stopped
yourself,
my video.
Yeah. Noel, you're talking.
I stopped my video, but I'm still on.
See, so Noel did that right here. He stopped his video, so you can go in those 3 little dots, and you go stop video, and it automatically drops your name right in there. It just
Caesar, let me clarify, Caesar. Are you looking to add your picture to the right side under the participant list?
There, you know what? That
Yes,
probably.
Exactly. So I'm talking about the participant list that I have on the right-hand side of my screen.
Oh.
Yeah. So that would be like, if once you have an account set up, you can go ahead and
Yes.
upload your picture to that account. And like for me, my email address is at gmail.com. So if I ever accept an invitation from anyone, as long as it's sent to my gmail.com address, then my name will be there, or my picture will show up on that list.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, any other questions we have?
I had a couple questions.
Sure.
Okay.
A new DTM. Look at this, a new DTM.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well,
Ms. Kathy, through.
I'm gonna look at my. Are most of the the clubs that have the virtual meetings, are most of them using Zoom or not?
Yeah, I could not give you an answer to that. From my experience, and a lot of this is based on what was available to the Toastmaster at the time. So I would tell you that when I conducted my monthly deck meetings, I used Cisco WebEx because the company I work for had a contract with WebEx. We then switched over to Zoom at some point later, and so I started using that as well.
Yes.
But again, Zoom is free, right? So I think that that's one of the biggest advantages is utilizing either Zoom or
Well,
WebEx.
yeah, it's free for 40 minutes, but our
Correct.
go like over an hour. So then it would be $14 or $15 a month, right?
That's true. Now, I'm not trying to be like all stingy and very financially conservative, but you know, I know that most club meetings do have an intermission, and so it is always possible to
Yeah.
include that 10-minute intermission as your break and set up 2 separate meetings. So you can do
Kathy,
one
that's
meeting for an
exactly.
Well,
hour.
we've been paying, oh, sorry, we've been paying like $15 every meeting anyway. So we would actually come out ahead because we have you know, we'd be saving, if we did all virtual, you know, we'd be saving some money. But anyway, okay, I just was wondering how that would. I heard that about trying to do the intermission. I just don't know if people would have a hard enough time dialing in to be able to, you know, do that. I think some of these others you may have answered. So is there any talk about how we would handle members that really have limited or no technology?
So you mean that they don't have access to any of this, or that they have access to these tools, but they're not familiar how to use them?
I guess either. Well, we had some members that didn't have, like they didn't have a camera on their monitor, or some people don't have a computer at home. I think he's got but I do think he's got a smartphone, so I guess he could probably utilize a smartphone, but he doesn't have a computer.
Yeah, I would say that for most individuals, like literally, well, I shouldn't give any, you know, false numbers here, right? But I would say that most individuals do today have a smartphone, whether it's
Yeah.
a Samsung Galaxy or an iPhone, like in some capacity, like they have that. And downloading the app is probably the fastest, most efficient way, and the cheapest way to be
Yeah.
able to participate in these types of meetings.
Sure.
Again, the dashboard will look a little bit different on the phone than it does on the laptop, but at the same time, you know, it's actually it's easier for them to do. For those individuals that have a laptop or a desktop, you can buy like a camera today with a USB port for like $10 or so. So it's not very expensive from an investment perspective. So that's access to the resources. The utilization, or how do the training on how to use that, honestly, there's 2 ways to do it. And I will say that either you need to have one person, and this is a great presentation or a speech for a member to give, like how to use this tool and get some credit towards their DTM. That's one option. Or just literally practice with somebody that's technologically advanced and have them practice one-on-one. You know, that's what I've seen happen. That's what I do with my father, who is still struggling with some of this. But I also know that when I was the district director, I had a few technologically advanced Toastmasters work with those that were technologically naive.
Yeah, yeah.
It was just something new for them. And so, you know, they would spend some time, half an hour, maybe 2 hours at the most, and walk them through the basics so they could get from one meeting to the next, and then they would build on that going forward.
Yeah, I know we had a contestant for the C13 contest, and I don't know if she didn't have a computer, but she wasn't even able to dial in, and I guess Scott had practiced with her. So, I mean, she kind of, you know, wasn't like upset or whatever, but I think she, you know, despite all efforts, she wasn't able to, you know, be a contestant in the contest. But, you know, those things happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah, we're so blessed that we actually have a situation here that is more controlled than it could be. It could be worse, right? And we are so blessed that we have that. And I think that if we could just spend a little time with the people who are challenged and just get them to just have offline chats with us. I mean, that's all it takes. Just a little bit of nurturing. I think that will help a lot. Okay. Backgrounds. I see a background coming in. Okay.
Is that Larry New cooking in?
Yeah, I think so. I think Larry's cutting in. What is sunrise over the earth? Are there any more questions, or does anybody want to just jump on and say a few things like Robert just did, so that we can actually get a little bit of participation?
Yeah, I'll make a little bit of a comment. I've been experimenting with Zoom, and one of the other applications that was on your list, free conference call. I did find Zoom a little bit easier and a little more intuitive to use. And I've been experimenting just between my computer and my wife's computer. And I've also been able to download it onto my Galaxy phone, and I've been experimenting a little bit with using the Galaxy phone. So once I get comfortable, a little more comfortable with those, I'll pass that on to the rest of the team members in our club.
That's fantastic. I'm glad to see that you're engaging on it. That's outstanding.
Well, I've tried to get responses for who has cameras, who has phones or something like that. And so far, I've only got a response from 2 of my club members.
So free conference call, I'm glad that you brought that up. I had actually set up quite a few, I had recorded a lot of trainings as a club growth director a couple of years ago. They're still available today, but I don't know when they expire. They're great for audio. They're great for just conference calls. I'm not sure today how that would function for our Toastmasters meetings, because so much of that is for, self-development and trying to, improve again as it relates to speaking on stage. So, and I know Noel is giving me the cool sign or the peace sign, because I know that you.
I don't, but somebody asked the question, why is there 2 Noels on their screen? And the answer to this is what exactly Iqbal was mentioning. I downloaded the Zoom app. Since I logged in as Stella, as one of the co-hosts for this, I also turned on my phone and I logged in as myself. So I have here is me that's moving around. That's right next to a bookcase. That's my phone, and I can move around. Meanwhile, on the screen that looks frozen is the Stella administrator position. So I have 2 of me on the screen. So this is proof that you can use your phone and you can even move around. And because I made pizza tonight and I'm making sure I'm checking, it's fine.
And you're going to share it with yourself, right?
Oh,
I will share with everybody.
There's Larry.
Outstanding.
So I just want to say there are 40 people still on the call tonight, and
Awesome.
it's fantastic, and we're all hanging in there. I noticed as I was scrolling from the top that we have a gentleman that I don't think you got to know Iqbal. I don't think you got to know him, but he is our champion. He's our coach chairman for this year, and is Arturo. And I would love him to say a couple words, because his ability to share some of his thoughts about what we're doing in the world we're going into, I would love him to say a couple words. Arturo, can you join us?
Yep, thank you very much, Stella. We had a chance to talk via email yesterday, and one of the things that I kind of look at from my perspective, and again, putting my business hat on, I think it's really important for us as a district to talk about how we can still create value to our members in this new world. And this new world being the virtual world. So what I'm looking to do is, I've hosted champion calls in the past, which have primarily been opportunities for clubs that don't qualify for a coach. They can still get coaching assistance. I'm thinking about either April 1st or April 2nd, looking for some experts, some champions from our district to talk about how we can still add value to our members in a virtual world. And then a spinoff of that was a conversation I had with Larry today, and I myself have gone through an economic downturn and been laid off, is maybe us considering at a district level doing another Zoom webinar on how to better equip our team members through possible job transition. So those are 2 of the things that I've kind of looked to explore. But the first thing will be a champions call on either April 1st or 2nd, looking for champions to talk about how Toastmasters can add value in a virtual world and not lose our members during this unprecedented time that we're in. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Arturo. And Iqbal is actually an HR vice president, so he knows how this really makes an effect on all of us. So Iqbal, can you respond to that?
Sure. I'll touch on it from 2 levels. One is retention and the other is talent. I've been in human resources now for 13-ish years. I've had several different businesses before, hired and performance managed a lot of different people. I will tell you that because of how unprecedented the situation is, there is definitely a lot of transitions that people are going through. at all levels, right? From front level store associates all the way up to C-suite or director level positions. So there is a lot of opportunity for Toastmasters to get and attract individuals today to be able to provide for them some of the tips and trips that they would need to be able to prepare themselves for the next step. As a district, from my experience, and again, this is 2 years ago, there's a lot of opportunity for us to guide them from, how to properly network, how to engage people, especially using virtual technology today. From a retention standpoint, I think that it's really critical. And again, this is just my viewpoint. Stella is the district director, and so she probably already has this already mapped out, in great detail. But I think it's really critical that, from my vantage point, when you have the best of the best in Toastmasters and in District 30 visibly out there on LinkedIn, particularly LinkedIn, because that's really a business platform, touting the benefits of Toastmasters regularly. I think that that's another great way to make sure that your existing members see them and recognize that these are the tips and tricks that they are teaching me and that I should be looking for or gaining from my club meetings on a regular basis. So whether, again, interviewing skills has been one of my fortes for the last 13 years. I cannot tell you how many students and 25-year professionals, 25 plus year professionals that assume that simply because they either have a degree or that they worked in a particular position that they will automatically be picked up. It's not the way it works. And Toastmasters has taught me how to be able to leverage some of my skill sets and present it in a compact, concise fashion to a hiring manager or a recruiter to make sure that my next step in the career advancement ladder is actually moving forward.
And you showed so much of that from your presentations from the last 5 years that I've gotten to know you. And it's true. I mean, in Toastmasters, we can master how to do virtual. And that's the platform we're building on is getting really good, because when you see somebody as great as Iqbal controlling himself so beautifully, you are inspired to do so. And that is a great platform to have.
Iqbal, we are currently at 8:01. I don't know where, we set the meeting to last until 8:30, but obviously we weren't planning to make sure it goes that far. If anybody else has any question, I know that Lynn has just mentioned the session's been very beneficial. Thank you for all the effort and time. And of course, Iqbal, you are a class act. I do agree with that. You've been my leadership mentor since, I became involved in Toastmasters as a district leader. And I do enjoy the times that we did these virtual meetings. It's been very helpful. Just never expected a couple of years later, this is what we're doing. And we do thank you for everything that you have. If there's anybody else who has any questions for Iqbal, we thank you again for your time. We do have other sessions for everybody else. If you take a look at the d30toastmasters.org website, on the website, there's 3 buttons right there. One talks about virtual meetings, things that Iqbal mentioned about, setting up a virtual meeting. And then the second button, which is the virtual contest, the 13 that we have left, as well as the last button, which talks about the virtual courses. This is the second out of 10 that we have. On Tuesday, we will have one that talks about the membership renewals and the payments, how to make it easy, especially now that we are doing things virtually. And then we also have a presentation from our marketing from Mike Scampini, one of our area directors. He's also on the list. Take a look at that on our list of courses. As soon as this meeting is done, hopefully as soon as it's done uploading on the cloud, we will have a link of this presentation and we will share it to everybody and will be up on our website shortly.
This is Robert Harrington. I wanted to find out more about the idea of how you stage the next person or stage a PowerPoint presentation into this particular form. Yeah.
So Robert, if I hear you correctly, the question is, how would you prepare the PowerPoints or any visible modality for this? One of the key things for me was always instituting as the Toastmaster of the day, or in my case, the district director, ensuring that PowerPoints were presented and given to me to in my Sergeant at Arms well in advance and prepared for that. So it was critical to have, from my experience, it was really critical to have one PowerPoint that was a composite of everyone else's PowerPoint. So for example, when Stella would present her Club Growth Director report, she would be utilizing the one PowerPoint that was on the screen, but she also had the ability to be the master of it and advance it as she saw fit when it was ready. So you could have everybody become a host for a moment, or even share their screen. It's not something that I recommend, because I've seen, unfortunately, especially at the time and place that we're at, some people just like to play during a meeting, and they will try and share their screen or do a whiteboard, and it's very difficult to control. So control, especially right now on a virtual platform, is really critical. So getting everyone to submit. If you have 3 speakers on your agenda, make sure that they provide, the Toastmaster of the day and or the Sergeant at Arms their presentations at least or no later than 24 hours in advance. Like that's like should be the minimum. And that way your Sergeant at Arms or your Toastmaster has the ability to format everything and put it together, and can advance screens or grant access during that meeting to that individual, and then take it back when it's time to transition over.
So that means that the person that is controlling or giving a speech, they would either have a hand signal they could flip to the person to say, okay, flip to my next screen. Yep. Or something of that, so that the person that has control of it, if you don't give them the co-host process, they could actually tell you, this is when I do this, snap my fingers or whatever, flip to my next screen, something of that nature.
So let me make sure that I clarify if there's any ambiguity. Anyone on this call today can share their screen. So as a host, however, you manage the participants. So for example, only Stella and Noel as co-hosts can manage every participant today. They can mute me if they want right now. They can kick me out of this meeting if I keep on talking. They can do whatever they like, right, as the host. But as every one of us is a participant, we still have the ability to both share our screen and advance our PowerPoint as we see fit. Now, if I shared my screen right now and I started, showing a YouTube video that had nothing to do with this presentation, Stella or Noel could, stop that, right? So everyone can share their screen, but it's again critical for me and from my perspective to have one PowerPoint presentation for one entire meeting, and that way it's just easier to use. And that way, for example, Robert, if you sent me your meeting and I introduce you as the speaker, I can just go ahead and have you share your screen or take over and control it, and then I'll take it back.
And you know what? Let's encourage our members of our clubs to get aboard. I mean, it's only been since last Saturday that we got the announcement from TI officially at 11:30 at night. That's like not even 8 days ago, that we have to go virtual on everything. So let's just encourage other people to join in and just partake. It's really a very comfortable area to be engaged in, because we always are supporting each other. That's part of the nature of Toastmasters.
Speaking of that, I have been working with a number of the different products. I had 4 products before this event occurred. I've been working with those products, including freeconferencecall.com, that has for the last several years had the capability of doing presentations as well as conference calls. Mm-hmm. The problem I have with that particular one right now is on their name it says free, and everybody's jumping on free, and they're burying them with bandwidth requests, and they're burying them with requests on their services. So that's probably not the best choice in this particular window of time. During a normal time, I swear by it, it's a great tool. In this time, there's other choices that are out there. Choices that are out there are clearly Zoom, which we've articulated a lot about today. There are other choices out there as well. There's a choice out there from Google called Google Meet, and Google Meet is an outstanding product. I doubt seriously if Google's going to run out of bandwidth, and it's not limited to 40 minutes if you have a subscription. And I would be willing to work with any of the teams that are out there. Reach out to me and ask, and I would try and schedule something to where I can set a meeting up for your officers so that they can see what's going on with it and get a perspective on how it works. And that way you have a better idea if it's something you want to consider or not. It is not going to be limited to a 40-minute time window. That to me is an issue, because getting people who are technology challenged to get out at the end of 40 minutes is not a problem because it drops them, but getting them to come back in again, they may or may not feel comfortable with that situation.
So Larry, I'm glad you pointed out Google Hangouts, and I want to go back to freeconferencecall.com just for a second. I do know that Free Conference Call does offer like webinars and does offer a platform. It was my understanding at the time, and I'm going back about 3 years ago, that you were limited to only 25 participants, and that was a bummer for me. So that's why I don't use that, and I've just gotten very comfortable.
It has changed.
It has changed. Okay,
It's,
good. So that's another option.
It's 1,000 people for up to 6 hours.
That's an audio call. I'm talking about a webinar.
I'm talking about displaying video like we are.
Oh, good. I'm glad to see that they've upgraded it.
For everybody, if you check out on the d30toastmasters.org website, we actually put on the virtual meetings. We gave you the link to at least 10 of them that's listed in there. There's the Google Hangouts that Iqbal has mentioned, free conference call, WebEx, Zoom. We even put down Uber Conference, which is something new that I tried and actually is pretty decent. Again, all of them have some kind of limitations. And we gave you the website link to it so you can check it out and see which one works best for your club. And as Iqbal had mentioned, that there are ways to get around with the 40 minutes, just like how Kathy was mentioning, with give a 10-minute break and then start the next part of the meeting. That's your intermission that's actually put, thank you to the free conference calls that are provided.
I have a question, Noel. Does Uber Conference mean that you get a free delivery of food while you're on a conference call?
I wish it would do that. That would be the best thing. I could ask them to provide a little bit more alcohol in my case, and I'll be happy.
We are falling apart here.
Yes, we are definitely at that time, and I want to check with everybody.
I think it's time for Iqbal to take his time to go outside and have that nice long cigar like he used to have.
Still do, Stella.
And the coffee, the big coffee.
Oh, I still do.
Oh my God. Precious memories. I swear to God, precious memories.
Hug, Stella. I'm hugging you.
I am hugging you too, Iqbal. Thank you so much for all that you've done. You shared so much of your personality and your ways, and we've learned so much from you. You have always been such a beautiful person on stage and in this media as well. And we are privileged to have you in our midst of friends in District 30. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm wishing everybody to stay happy, safe, and healthy. And hopefully I will see you all very soon again.
Thank you so much. And we welcome you back. Please come back.
Thank
Come
you.
back to us.
Okay.
All right. Talk to you later.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Hi.
We will go ahead and end the meeting. And then if anybody has questions, we can catch up with Iqbal. Just reach out to the district. Just reach out on our website.
So I really think we should go do that red carpet thing. I really like the idea. I love the red carpet idea. We're gonna have the Academy of Virtual.
So for everybody in the meeting, thank you so much for attending. We are now going to end the meeting, and then this thing is going to take a little bit of time because this is uploading on the cloud. And as soon as we have completed this recording, we will send it out to everybody, and there will be a link on our website. So thank you so much for everybody. Have a good night. Have a safe weekend. It's a brand new week again, and happy virtual meetings.
I'm actually going to work.
Yes, you go to work.
I'm going to work. I'm driving to work tomorrow.
Okay, have a good one. Thank you.
God bless everyone.
Good night.
Take care.
Bye.
See you later. See you in person someday soon.